In this video, we're going to address everything about powers, and in this case, we're given the following numbers. We are asked to express them in power form. Like for example, A, we are given the number 125, next is the number 81, and finally 64. And being able to convert from an ordinary number to a power is really significant in terms of how we will be able to not only simplify but also be able to expand from powers to standard form, and from standard form and later on to scientific notation. So let's begin. There are three things to think about when it comes to powers. One here involves knowing that powers is all about repeating multiplications, and in here we need to recognize that when you have a number that is multiplied by itself many times, we need to recognize that yes, we can simplify this in the form of a power. Now next is the component of powers, and the component of powers involves the following. We have a base, and the base is going to be raised to the power of an exponent. And so these two components are really crucial in terms of going from an ordinary number to a power form, which has a number, and at the top right corner we have an exponent. And finally, we're going to talk about how we can develop strategies in terms of going from a number to power form, and this strategy comes from the concept called a factor tree. And so there are other strategies out there, but for this video we're going to look at how factor tree enables us to simplify a number or convert it or express it in power form. Now, given this question that says you should simplify in power form, we have 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, and the second question gives you 3 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 2 times 2 times 3. So I want you to pause this video and try and set up these particular questions in this particular form, where you have a base and an exponent at the top right corner of the base. And once you're able to recognize what the function of a base is and what the function of an exponent, looking at these questions, then you should be able to know how to set it up in that manner. And so once you've hit pause and solve the question, now you can hit play and let's begin. So when you think about powers, remember that this looks at repeating multiplications, and the question here is, what is repeating? What is repeating is 2 and they are multiplying together 3 times. So you have 2 here which is repeating, so I'm going to put it as my base. And then how many 2's are multiplied together? In this case I have 3 of them that are multiplied together, and that means that I can write it by the right side. 1, I have 2, and I have 3, and so therefore my exponent is going to be 3. And so the purpose of this tool is that it is telling me what is the repeating number and how many is the exponent. So we'll be able to successfully convert our multiplication to a power form. And likewise for this other question, which says that yes, we're multiplying 3 by 2 by 5 by 2 by 2 and by 3. In here we can simplify the ones that have the same numbers. Like for example, we have how many 3's? We have 1 and we have 2. So I can write this here together in this form here as 3 times 3, and then how many 2's multiplied, don't forget, by how many 2's do I have here? I have 1, 2, 3, so that means it's going to be times 2 times 2, which is this one, times 2, which is this over here. And then finally we have our number, which is 5, and this 5 is going to be times 5. And so once you're able to classify these based on the same basis, now we can set them up to look like our power form. And so 3 times 3 is the same thing as saying that the repeating numbers are what? 3. And so I have 3 to the power, in this case the exponent is what? We have 2 of these 3's that are multiplying together, and so the exponent is going to be in this part 2. And so that is the first one that we've multiplied and set it up in power form. Now the next one is, don't forget your multiplication. You're going to bring it here, and so times next is 2 times 2 times 2. The base tells me what is repeating in terms of multiplication, and in this case we have our 2, and our exponent is how many of these 2's am I multiplying repeatedly. That means I have 1, 2, 3, and that means I'm going to write my exponent right above as 3 because there are 3 of them, and finally I'm going to multiply times, don't forget the times here, times what? 5, and that means I have how many 5 here? 1, 5, and so 5 to the power of what? 1. And so what that means is that since I have 5 to the power of 1, it is the same thing as what? 5. And so this is my final answer to this question. The final answer is 3 to the power of 2, or exponent 2, times 2 exponent 3 times 5 exponent 1. So that is how we're able to convert or simplify our multiplications in power form. What if you're given the following numbers and you're asked to transform or change to power form? The numbers include 125, and finally we have 54. So what I want you to do is pause this video and try this question and see what that gives you, and then come back and check the solution right here. So let's begin. Now you want to think about a strategy that you can use to accomplish this question, and the strategy that will be performed in this video is known as what? A factor tree. A factor tree able to what? Take advantage of breaking your numbers down into factors, and even you can go further into prime factors. And what does this mean? A prime number is a number that you can divide by 1 and itself. And so what that implies is that when we are going to be breaking this number down, we should not break it down into 2 factors, that is 1 and itself. So what does that look like? That means that if I'm looking for 2 numbers that I multiply together to give this number, that means that this should not be, in this case, a result that is 1 and 125. Yes, 1 times 125 will give you 125, but you're breaking this down into a prime factors, which is not the case, because this should be broken down as well into 2 different numbers other than itself or 1. And so in order for you to accomplish this, what we do is we remember your multiplication table and figure out how you'll be able to determine the 2 numbers. And in this case we have 5 and we have 25, and so 5 times 25 gives you 125, and that is the first step. When we look at 5, we cannot break it down any further, because if we break it down any further, you're going to get what? 1 times 5. So that means 1 times 5, yes, that gives you 5, but this here tells us that it is 5 is a prime number. Therefore, for this question, it is a prime factor of 125. And so in this part, what we are going to do is just end for the left arrow at 5, and we circle it right over there. But then on the other hand, we have the right side, or the right arrow, we have 25, and we can break this down further to have what? Two numbers that you multiply together to give you 25. In this case, we have 5 and we have 5. So 5 is a prime factor of 25, and 5 is a prime factor of 25. Therefore, the circled numbers, when you multiply them together, you're going to get 125. So therefore, our answer here is going to be this 5 times this 5 times this 5. And so what that is equal to, because remember the question says you want it in power form, is you have what numbers are repeating that are multiplied together. In this case, we have 5 that is repeating, and how many 5s are you multiplying together? That means I have 1, 2, 3, and that means my exponent is going to be my 3. Remember that the 5 is the numbers that are repeating. That means it is the base, and how many of the 5s that you're multiplying together is the exponent, which is 3. And so this here is our final answer for A. And finally for B, which is 54, the same logic as well, which means we're going to find two factors that you multiply together to give you 54. And in this case, we're not using 1 and 54. No, we're going to use different numbers, and in this case we have 6 and 9. If you look at 6 closely, you can break 6 further down on the left side to find two factors, and the two factors always is what? We have 2 times 3. And so remember that 2, yes, is a prime number because it is divisible by 1 and itself only, and it as well is applicable to 3. It is divisible by 1 and 3 only, no other number. Therefore, we are circling that as yes, that is the end of that tree. And while the other part here we have for 9 is we're going to find two factors that we're going to multiply together, and here we have 3, which is a prime number, and 3, which is also a prime number. Therefore, what we see is that we have our end of the tree to be what? 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 to give what? 54. And so once you're able to write this out, we are now going to transform this to a power form. And what does that mean? That means that looking for the numbers that are repeating and also any other number left, we are going to simplify the numbers that are repeating. We bring our 2 because it's only 1, 2, and of course that is the base, and the exponent of that 2 is what? Only 1, 2 that is present. So we just write 2 as our base, and our exponent is going to be 1. And finally, this is multiplied by what is repeating here. We have 3 that is going to be the base, and the exponent is how many 3s are you multiplying together, and we have 1, 2, 3, and so our exponent is going to be 3. And this here is our final answer, which is the power form of our number 54, while the power form of 125 is 5 to the power or to the exponent of 3. Now you have this taken care of. You can now apply it to this question and this question right here from the beginning of the video. So I hope you found this really informative. Please hit a comment down below and let me hear your thought about this. By that way I can talk to you soon. Stay smart as always and believe in yourselves.